Hey guys, PretzelMan945 here. Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to be finishing strong, completing the top 10 updated movies list, 5 to 1. This is like the really big and juicy part of the list. So starting out at number 5, I have A Beautiful Mind. Um, Now, A Beautiful Mind. God, this movie's incredible. Um, so this movie, for those who aren't aware, it stars Russell Crowe and Jennifer Connelly, and it follows the story of John Nash, who, if you're not familiar, was an economist in the 20th century that revolutionized modern economic theory, as far as I know. Um, So this movie is basically about him, and it basically chronicles his life and the different stages of it. Um, and I don't know how to describe. Okay. So the first thing I'll start with is that this movie is masterfully paced. Um, like each section is they leave time for like slow emotional moments, but this movie also knows when to like speed up between time gaps, and it's just so well done. The writing is also really good. Like all the characters in this movie are fantastic. The music is also really good. Um, I think I'm going to go character by character here. So the character of John himself, I think, is extremely fascinating to follow. He is an amazing protagonist in this movie, and I think that, like just watching through his life is like fascinating and almost depressing, kind of. Because everything in this movie basically builds up. Spoilers if you haven't seen it, but um it kind of like all builds up to this giant reveal that um John has schizophrenia. And this is just like masterfully hinted at in so many ways. Like when you rewatch the movie, you can see how many subtle signs there are. Like the fact that his roommate it wasn't even real, and you could see people's reaction to him like yelling on the roof, drunk, and like um throwing the desk out the window, like things like that, or just like some of the more subtle ones. And then just like people watching his everyday interactions as he talks to people that they know don't exist. Um and then oh my god, Paul Bettany plays the roommate, and because of this this movie combined with his Marvel appearances makes him one of my favorite actors. Um My God, he's so good. Um, he's an extremely charming character in this movie. Um, he's a great roommate character. He is super funny and and just also the fact that like how he and John are really complete opposites. But he also manages to bring out like John's more fun side essentially. Um, Such a good character. And then, Alicia, my God. This is one of the very few movies where I actually really like the romance. Like, I think this is probably my favorite out of any movie ever because they actually approach it in a meaningful way. Like they introduce these two characters that are extreme opposites, but that clearly understand and care for each other. And they slowly, bit by bit, build up their extremely deep relationship. And the movie really takes its time to highlight their emotional struggles and problems. Okay, sorry about that. Just checking something. Um, but as I was saying, it really takes the time to understand those deep emotional moments between the two of them and really highlights their struggles with marriage as like his schizophrenia gets to the point where he like almost drowns. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but like the way that their relationship build up, and I'll comment more on it later as I talk about how the movie progresses, but and then possibly the best performance in the entire movie, Ed Harris. Um, I forget his exact character name, but he plays like the head of a security agency, and he gives John supposedly this like top secret job were like decoding Russian messages for the US government, and he has to like drop them off at this mansion place. And it's like this whole like secret ordeal or whatever. And um and honestly, like you have to rewatch this movie several times to like understand the intricacy of all the details that they pack into it because like the writing the level of detail is so deep in this movie like my god it's insane honestly what they were able to do it's incredible um sweet um Ed Harris's character is like he's so well acted. Ed Harris is a really good actor um and I feel like um what I really like about Ed Harris's character in this movie is like the way like his pragmatism, I think. I don't know if that's the right word to describe it, but just his reasoning and logic are just like extremely just like ruthless, cold, and um and he's such an influence on John in all the wrong ways because he causes his schizophrenia to become even worse because he's constantly getting more and more paranoid. And it's like this untreated thing that continually gets worse and worse and worse until the point where he thinks he's actually being pursued by the Russians. And my God, that one scene where they're being chased in the gunfight, like you have to rewatch this movie like at least two or three times to truly comprehend the amount of detail that is in that scene alone. It's insane. And like as for the only action scene in the movie, it's intense. Because this movie is not an action movie. It doesn't really need action scenes. But like that is like the one intense action scene that I didn't know this movie needed, but my God, I'm glad it's there. Um so then after that point, we find out that John has schizophrenia. And then there's just like this complete just like tearjerker character moment or just like you find out that he finds out that Charles isn't real and he just goes into this rage, he blames Charles for lying, and then just like Paul Bettany's acting during that scene is just absolute top tier, bro. And then like, man, they didn't just like the brutality of his psychiatric treatments that he has to go through because like this is a time period when that was the only kind of medication available. Um, and I really feel like Dr. Rosen in this movie is like he's not my favorite character, and in fact, because I you just like root for John so much, like he often just becomes like kind of this like stickler, annoying dude that like just want to get off the screen. And he kind of does serve his purpose for that. But what I think that he does an even better job of, honestly, is providing this presence on screen that makes him I guess, like like an extremist, essentially. That's the best way I can put it. He is like an extremist in many ways because basically thinks the only way to cure John is um by undergoing like all these like surgeries and like crazy horrible procedures like several times a week um and doing that for like months on end. Um but like there's also a bit of dynamicness to that character, to his character because eventually he learns to kind of trust Alicia's judgment on it, and ultimately he just decides to let them handle it, and they give him a call if there's any problems that happen. Um, yeah, the way their relationship built up. This is what I'm talking about, commenting on the relationship a little bit later. I'm gonna do that now. Continue that. Um, because like they have a kid together, and also like during this period after all the surgeries, he's out of the mental institution or whatever. Like the way that they make his character into like the way like Strussler acting in this section of the movie is so good. Like the way that he ends up acting without his pills and how he just becomes like completely desensitized and just not able to do anything. Like it's insane. And just watching the rift between him and Alicia as they're desperately trying to console their marriage, all the while raising a baby. It's insane. Like just the emotional roots that this movie takes. My God, you're not prepared for it. It's such a good movie. Um, and then and then you kind of see more character development from John because like he decides to stop taking his pills because he genuinely hates what it's doing to his family. And at the same time, but then he starts to slip back into his old habits again. And he's once again recruited by Ed Harris's character to continue his work. And also the way that Ed Harris addresses him as a soldier, like that's just this insane like mental drilling mindset. Um, where like he just like like that part of him alone just like allows him complete mental domination over John. It's insane. Um, and also during this part of the movie, you like actively see his struggle, like as it moves along. Like he reconciles with Alicia, and like just kind of like seeing his like recovery from it as another thing I really like is I didn't mention this earlier, but his relationship between him and his college buddies. Um so the main guy I forget the name of, but their relationship is like rivals that become very good friends is super interesting, and the fact that he like comes back to essentially like I think his character literally comes full circle because like he thought that he was too good for school and he could just fly through and get his PhD while just making his own theories, not really attending class. And then he comes back and actually like attends classes and learns things again and learns what that's like. That like full circleness is such a masterful finding. God. Um, and then near the ending, like when um he gets a Nobel Prize, like that's just the ultimate like perfect ending to the movie, I think. Um, so yeah, 16 and a half minutes about one film. You can tell where this is going. But my God, I love this film. Might have to split this into four parts actually. We'll have to see. Um, for now, let's move on to the next movie, number four, Inception. So I watched this movie for the first time during quarantine. I'd never even heard of it. Well, I'd heard of it and I'd heard it was good, so I gave it a watch and it was good. Um, you can probably tell that because it's number four on my favorite movies list. But um, to start with, this movie has um like even more than the Matrix, the most mind-bending plot of all time. Obviously, you understand what's going on upon multiple rewatches, but like on your first time watching, I wouldn't blame you if the movie's not your favorite because you would just get confused. I completely understand that, especially because there are a lot of characters to follow in this movie. I'm not saying that's one of the flaws necessarily, but there are a lot of different characters to follow and keep track of in this movie. And for a first time viewer of this movie, that can be a good bit confusing. Um, but like the idea of the plot is extremely creative and like I said, very mind bending. And just the way that they use it, like they use and reinforce the concepts about themes and ideas throughout the movie, like is dynamic and it's also very, very interesting. So right off the bat, like super interesting premise, extremely like mind warping, which just makes it even more intriguing. Um, so we're introduced to the character of Cobb, masterfully, like masterfully acted by Leonardo DiCaprio. Like underrated performance in this movie. He is so good as Leonardo as Cobb in this movie. It's insane. Um, and he is a guy that wants to accomplish one goal, but we don't know necessarily what that is yet. Uh, and I think another thing that this movie does really well is I'm kind of going all over the place here, but um, I think it really well balances action and humor because there's like funny bits and then there's also bits where with like really intense action scenes. And in between that, they have like these moments of exposition that are also made in dynamic ways so it's not just extremely boring. Like like almost all the exposition in this movie is conversations between two different characters, which I think is a very effective way to build exposition in between action scenes of the movie without having it feel too stale or repetitive. So, this movie also has perfect pacing. That's what I'm trying to get at. But basically, after the introduction, Arthur's also introduced, and he's like Cobb's essentially partner in crime with this type of thing, and we learn that Cobb, above all else, wants to be able to because it's a minor detail, but one that I feel like is important is like for whatever reason he's like a criminal and he's like run for arrest and he needs his name cleared by doing various jobs like this, and when they fail then he gets recruited by the guy that he was trying to break it whose mind he was trying to break into, Saito. um and and we learned that above all else he wants to get home to his kids. And I think it's really interesting to show like they kind of show the effects of his neglectfulness as a dad by by the phone call scene. Like how they tell um like how his kids say how much they want to miss him, and like how they say like I'll have grandpa bring you presents and stuff like that. And then basically like his his parents are just where raising his kids are just like it's not enough. You need to be here. You're their father. And you think that's such an interesting commentary on the neglectfulness of parents, and it works really well because it kind of like it kind of serves as like a continual reminder for Cobb to continue doing what he's doing. Um, it is kind of like this guilt that provides essentially eternal motivation throughout the course of the movie. Um, so because of that, I think, um, I think I have to split this into four parts. Jesus Christ. Um, um, so yeah, for that reason, yeah, that part of Cobb's character works extremely well. So then, we kind of get to what I call the recruitment phase of the movie, where he basically like recruits all the different people that he needs, while also like is able to slowly build up exposition in an interesting way, while also able to build some action scenes. So then we kind of get to the go time, like where the plan is formed and they take it into action with like the first stage and things like that. And throughout multiple portions of the movie, there's this character called Maul, who we don't know who she is, and she's continually causing problems. And like in the first stage, like they didn't consider that the guy that they're going after might have had like brain training or whatever, um, to protect himself, possibly, which is like an angle that Cobb was supposed to consider, and we find out later why, because Maul is his dead wife, which is like a really interesting like plot twist. And um and I will comment more on that later, but I feel like it's prevalent to know that around this story she becomes like a major like intervention in um like the more I think about like the layers, literally like layers, I don't say that like pun non intended, but the layers of this movie, the more I think about it are just so deep. Um So then they get to the second phase. As they go through the phases, eventually, they get down to this third level where they're in like a snowstorm. They have to like actually infiltrate the brain or whatever. Um, but then things go wrong. Saito gets shot and things like that, with like good action scenes to boot all throughout this section of the movie. This movie is not lacking for action in any way. Every single bit of it is meaningful and really exciting. Um, and Additionally, I think um, I don't know where I was going with that. Sorry. And so eventually we get to the point where Saito is shot, and so they have to go into another layer, which is very dangerous, potentially, and rescue him. So because of that, then then Maul appears, and she's the one that basically shoots Saito, if I remember correctly. And so eventually they have to go down to an additional layer. And as is actually explained earlier in the movie, Maul ends up committing suicide because she kind of became insane about this idea of what is real and what wasn't, and it was like masterful acting by Leonardo DiCaprio. Um, about like how and Cobb was desperately trying to convince her that everything was real, that her love, their marriage, and everything like that. And that one scene is so emotional, man. That's like really the one of the emotional climaxes of the movie, definitely. Um, there's another one near the end though, but that's like the first one I think of two in the movie, and it's extremely effective. And also like this um the way that um she comes back and plays an additional role in the story, um because they finally like go down to their world essentially, and um they manage to find um say Saito and bring him back essentially, and just like all those things, it's like tense. Um, I'm sorry, kind of rambling a bit here. Again, ADD that can happen. So I'm making this video into another part. I seriously think, um, sorry, again, tangent. Uh, this. Anyway, so at the second emotional climax, near the end of the movie, they kind of come to this place where they are like mall like like they, basically this is like the final emotional climax where like everything builds up and it's explained why Maul felt the way that she did. Um and man is it good. And like you eventually find out like she just wanted to live as a family together, and Cobb basically says like we did, and this is done amazing. Like you can understand their entire lifetime just based on one shot. That's how amazing the directing and cinematography is in this movie. Like you can understand like their life was real, it was tangible, based on this one like weird like this one camera shot of like back view of these two old people holding hands. Throughout that alone, you understand they already lived their life together, and Todd wanted to live it again because he just missed Maul so much when he died, obviously, so mourning and things like that, and he had the opportunity, so he did that. But then obviously that caused all the other things that happened. And that eventually is just like what Maul, like finally can get over his guilt because of this when he like remembers this. And man, it's so good. The ending is intense, and like that, and it's literally the perfect like ending that you could want because like actually, no, but I have to because like in the very beginning of the movie, backtrack a little bit. There's this sequence where they like go into Saito's where like he washes up on shore and we don't know why. And then we see like an old Asian dude, really old, who's like this boss guy, like we eventually find out that's Saito. Like him getting washed up on the shore in the ending of the movie was him rescuing Saito from the other layer. It's insane. Like, like when you first make that connection when you're watching a movie, it's absolutely mind blowing. It's insane. It's literally insane. Um, and um, and then like this movie just has the perfect ending where they all get out okay, and Cobb is able to go home to his kids. And that is just like a perfect ending, like nice resolution to everything. Wow, I spent 33 minutes talking about two movies. I hope you enjoyed and so much for making Joey all the way from 5 to 1. But yeah, I kind of had the thing in the back of my mind that that probably wasn't going to happen knowing the types of videos that I make. I hope you enjoyed. If you watched this slaughter of a video, then you have my thanks. Um, I will be making a fourth part eventually. I don't know what movies that will cover, whether it's like 3, 2, 1, or just 3 and 2, and then I'd make another one for just one. But thank you for watching, and I will see you later. Bye.